For 20 years, I have loved Clara. It's a fact as constant and unchangeable as the sun's path across the sky. It's a quiet, well-worn ache in my chest, a truth I folded up and tucked away so neatly that most days, I can almost forget it's there. Almost. But then there are days like today, lazy summer afternoons where the heat makes the air shimmer, and the world slows to a crawl, and the truth unfolds itself, raw and insistent. We're at the community pool, a place we've frequented since we were teenagers sneaking in after hours. Now, we pay for entry and complain about the chlorine drying out our skin. She's stretched out on the lounge chair next to mine, eyes closed behind her sunglasses, the worn copy of some dense historical novel resting on her stomach. The scent of her coconut sunscreen, a smell more intrinsically linked to summer than cut grass or thunderstorms, drifts on the humid air. I watch the slow, even rise and fall of her chest and feel the familiar, painful clench of my heart. She is beautiful in a way that feels both epic and utterly mundane. The constellation of freckles across her shoulders, the slight chip in her front tooth from a childhood roller skating accident, the way a single strand of her dark hair has escaped her messy bun to curl against the nape of her neck. These are the details that form the scripture of my long and silent devotion. Today, however, something is off. The usual comfortable silence between us is stretched thin, brittle. For the past hour, she hasn't turned a single page of her book. Her stillness isn't relaxed, it's coiled, a wire pulled taut. I've tried to breach it twice, once with a lame joke about a kid doing a cannonball too close to us, and once by offering her some of my water. Both attempts were met with a tight, distracted smile that didn't reach her eyes. The silence that followed was heavier than before. My own anxiety begins to prickle at the edges of my calm. This is the part one hate, the part where her life, her real life filled with men I've politely met and breakups I've coached her through, intrudes on the carefully constructed piece of our friendship. I brace myself for the inevitable news. Another disastrous date with another blandly handsome man. Another fight with her mother. Another frustration at work. I am the keeper of her casual sorrows, the steadfast sounding board for a life I can only ever watch from the sidelines. I try again, my voice softer this time. Everything okay, Claire? She doesn't open her eyes. Her fingers tighten on the cover of her book. Yeah. Just thinking. The response is a dismissal, a closed door. Fine. I can take a hint. I sink back into my own chair, turning my face to the sun, and let the wall I've spent 2 decades building slide back into place. It's a familiar fortress, built of resignation and self-preservation. Loving a straight woman, your best friend no less, is an exercise in carefully managed pain. You learn to celebrate her joys even when they feel like a knife twisting in your gut. You learn to listen to her talk about the spark she feels for someone else and nod, offering advice you wish you could be the recipient of. You learn to live in the slivers of affection she gives you, the easy way she'll link her arm through yours, the way she'll fall asleep on your shoulder during a movie, the late-night phone calls where she tells you secrets she tells no one else. You collect these moments like treasures, polishing them in the dark, telling yourself they are enough. But they are never, ever enough. My mind drifts back to a dozen different men. There was David in college, who she cried over for 6 months. Then Mark, the architect, who was kind but boring. Recently, it was Ben, a guy from her rock climbing gym, who had great arms and the emotional depth of a puddle. I had sat with her through the rise and fall of each one, a permanent fixture in the audience of her romantic life. Each time a new man entered the picture, I would feel the same cold dread, followed by the same practice performance of supportive best friend. And each time they left, a tiny, shameful flicker of hope would ignite within me, a hope I would ruthlessly extinguish before it could grow. It was a vicious, exhausting cycle. Do you remember that summer after freshman year? Her voice cuts through my thoughts, startlingly clear. I turn to look at her. She's taken her sunglasses off, and her hazel eyes, usually so bright and open, are shadowed with something I can't decipher. The one we spent working at the snack shack here. I ask. How could I forget? I think my pores still smell faintly of stale popcorn and regret. A real smile touches her lips this time, small but genuine. I think my lasting scent memory is freezer-burned ice cream sandwiches. She pauses, her gaze drifting towards the glittering, chlorinated water. You had that huge crush on Sarah from the swim team. The name is a ghost from the past, a memory I haven't revisited in years. Sarah. My first real, acknowledged crush on a girl. It was messy and unrequited and ended with a minor heartbreak that felt monumental at the time. Clara had been the one to find me crying behind the dumpster, and she'd spent her entire paycheck on cheap pizza and a terrible romantic comedy to cheer me up. Wow. Deep cut, I say, trying for a light tone. Yeah, Sarah the swimmer. I was so obvious. You weren't that obvious, she says quietly. But I knew. You always got this look on your face when she walked by. Like you were trying to solve a really complicated math problem. I feel a flush creep up my neck. Is that what I look like? Concentrated confusion. No, she says, and her voice is so low I have to lean in to hear it. It looked like reverence. She turns her head fully towards me now, her expression serious. You never look at anyone like that anymore, Em. Not since Andrea. And there it is. The other ghost. Andrea was my last serious relationship, the one that ended 3 years ago and left a crater in my life. The breakup was brutal, a slow, agonizing tear that left me raw and convinced that I was fundamentally unlovable. Clara had been my rock, my lifeboat. She'd shown up with boxes, packed my things, let me sleep on her couch for a month, and never once said, "I told you so," even though she'd never liked Andrea. She had just been there, solid and unwavering. I'm not really looking, I say, which is the truest and falsest thing I could possibly say. I'm not looking for anyone else, because my eyes have been fixed on her for 2 decades. I know, she says. But sometimes I worry about you. That she broke something in you. The genuine concern in her voice is a physical blow. It makes the lie I'm living feel sharper, more treacherous. She's worried about me being alone, never knowing that the reason I'm alone is her. The irony is so bitter it could curdle milk. I want to scream, to confess everything, to shatter this placid afternoon, and the foundation of our friendship with the weight of my truth. It's you. It's always been you. Every man you've ever dated has been a ghost to me, a placeholder for the life I wish I had. You broke me without ever touching me. But I don't. I swallow the words, the familiar burn of them in my throat. She didn't break me, Claire. She just reminded me to be more careful. It's a sanitized version of the truth, a corporate-approved summary of a devastating emotional event. She doesn't look convinced. She props herself up on one elbow, her body angled towards me. The movement is fluid and unconsciously graceful. The sun catches the fine, light hairs on her arm, turning them to gold. My gaze snags on the curve of her bicep, the smooth plane of her collarbone. My body has its own memory of her, a catalogue of near misses and accidental touches that I replay in my mind like a favorite film. Careful is one thing, she says, her eyes searching mine. Fortified is another. You don't let anyone in anymore. Not really. And you're the expert on letting people in. I shoot back, a little more sharply than I intended. The words are out before I can stop them, a defense mechanism kicking in. How's Ben? Did he manage to form a complete sentence this week? Her face falls, the concern replaced by a flicker of hurt. I immediately regret it. I'm sorry, I mutter, looking away. That was a low blow. No, it's okay, she says, her voice flat. You're not wrong. Ben and I broke up. Oh, there it is. The news I was expecting. But it doesn't bring that shameful flicker of hope. It just makes me feel like a jerk. Claire, I'm sorry. When? Last week, she says, picking at a loose thread on her towel. It was fine. Mutual. The whole thing was just lukewarm. Like everything else, she lets out a humorless laugh. My entire romantic history is a collection of lukewarm experiences. This is new. She's always been the optimist, the one who believed the next guy would be the one. This note of weary cynicism is unfamiliar, and it unnerves me. That's not true. You were crazy about David. I was 20, she says, waving a dismissive hand. I was crazy about the idea of being crazy about someone. It's different. Lately it all just feels like I'm going through the motions. Trying to want what I'm supposed to want. She looks at me then, a strange, intense light in her eyes. Does it ever feel like that for you? The question hangs in the air between us, shimmering and dangerous. She's asking about my relationships with women, but the parallel is so exact, so piercing, that I can barely breathe. Going through the motions. Trying to want someone else when all you've ever wanted is sitting right in front of you. Sometimes, I admit, my voice barely a whisper. We fall silent again, but this silence is different. It's not empty or tense. It's full. It's humming with the things we aren't saying. My heart is hammering against my ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. She's looking at me, really looking at me, in a way she hasn't before. It's a gaze stripped of 20 years of platonic assumptions. It's questioning. My back is itchy, she says abruptly, breaking the spell. Can you? She trails off, holding out her bottle of sunscreen. My hands feel clumsy as I take it. It's a simple, mundane request we've performed for each other 100 times. But today it feels monumental. She turns, presenting her back to me, and the geography of it is both intimately familiar and terrifyingly new. I squeeze a cool line of lotion onto my palm, the coconut scent enveloping me, and my fingers hesitate for a fraction of a second before they make contact with her skin. Her skin is warm from the sun, and she lets out a soft sigh as my fingers begin to move, spreading the lotion in slow, deliberate circles. I focus on the task, on the mechanics of it, trying to ignore the electric current that's shooting up my arm. I know every inch of this back. I know the precise location of the mole just below her left shoulder blade. I know the way her spine curves. But my touch feels different today. I can feel it, and I know she can too. There's a new awareness in the way I'm touching her, a reverence I can't conceal. I'm trying to solve a complicated math problem. My fingers graze the strap of her bikini top, and I see the goosebumps rise on her skin, a tiny, telltale reaction to my touch. My breath catches. I let my hand linger for a moment too long at the small of her back, the heat of my palm against her skin a silent confession. The world seems to shrink until it's only the space between my hand and her body, a space crackling with 20 years of unspoken energy. I pull my hand away as if I've been burned. There I say, my voice sounding rough and unfamiliar to my own ears. She doesn't turn around immediately. She stays facing away from me, her shoulders rigid. Thanks, she murmurs. When she finally turns back, her face is unreadable, her eyes hidden again behind her sunglasses. But there's a new flush high on her cheekbones that has nothing to do with the sun. The spell is broken, but the air remains charged. An invisible line has been crossed. The carefully maintained boundary of our friendship, a boundary I have policed with fierce diligence for my entire adult life, has become blurred and indistinct. The silence that descends now is the most unnerving of all. It's the quiet before a storm, the deep breath before the plunge. My phone buzzes on the table between us, a harsh, unwelcome intrusion. I glance at the screen. It's my sister, Lisa. I know exactly what this call will be about. It will be about my solitary life, about her latest attempt to set me up with her husband's co-worker's cousin, a man whose only described virtue is that he is also single. It's a conversation I absolutely cannot have right now. I silence the call, my thumb pressing down on the screen with more force than necessary. Everything all right? Clara asks, her voice still quiet. Just my sister, I say, playing her favorite role as my unsolicited matchmaker. Ah, Mr. CPA from the suburbs, she asks, a ghost of our old, easy banter returning. The very one. I think his name is Gary. She's convinced my life is a tragedy that can only be solved by a mortgage, and a man who thinks spreadsheets are a personality trait. The words come out more bitterly than I intend. The pressure from my family, the constant, subtle assumption that my life is incomplete, is a weight I usually carry with more grace. But today, with Clara sitting here, a whirlwind of impossible hope churning in my gut, it feels unbearable. You seem happy to me, Clara says softly, and it's not a platitude. She says it like a statement of fact, a truth she has observed and verified. Happy is a strong word, I hedge. I'm content. No, you're not, she says, and there's no judgment in it, just that same quiet certainty. She takes off her sunglasses again, and her eyes lock onto mine. Neither of us are. We're just treading water. The metaphor hangs in the air, perfect and painful. Treading water in the deep end, pretending we're not exhausted, pretending the bottom isn't miles below us. Claire, what is this? I finally ask, the question tearing out of me. What's going on with you today? I don't know. You're scaring me a little. She takes a deep, shaky breath. She looks down at her hands, then back up at me. The bravado is gone. In its place is a vulnerability that mirrors my own, a raw, terrifying openness that I've never seen in her before. I'm scaring myself, she whispers. Her gaze drops to my mouth, just for a second, but it's a second that stretches into an eternity. In that fleeting glance, I see it. I see the same hunger, the same desperate yearning that lives inside of me. It's impossible. It can't be real. It's a trick of the light, a projection of my own decades-long fantasy. For 20 years, she begins, her voice trembling slightly, I've been telling myself a story. About who I am, about what I'm supposed to want. I had it all mapped out. The husband, the house, the 2.5 kids. And I kept trying to find the guy who would fit into that story. My heart has stopped. I am not breathing. The distant sounds of the pool, the splashing, the laughter, the lifeguard's whistle, fade into a dull, distant roar. There is only her voice. Every time, it was wrong. Every relationship felt like I was wearing a costume that was a size too small. I kept thinking the problem was them. He's not smart enough, he's not funny enough, he's not ambitious enough. But that wasn't it, she shakes her head, a slow, sad movement. The problem wasn't the guy. The problem was that he was a guy. The confession lands in the space between us, and the world tilts on its axis. The fortress I built around my heart doesn't just crumble, it evaporates. It was never stone at all, just smoke and fear. Clara, my voice is a choked whisper. I can't form a complete thought. My mind is a static storm of disbelief, and a hope so fierce it hurts. And the whole time, she continues, tears welling in her eyes now, glistening in the sun, the answer was right here. The person who makes me laugh, the person I tell everything to, the only person I've ever felt completely safe with. The person I compare everyone else to, and they all come up short. It's always been you, M. A single tear escapes and traces a path through the faint dusting of powder on her cheek. I love you, she says. And not in the way I'm supposed to. Not the best friend way. I'm in love with you. And I think I have been for a very, very long time. I was just too scared to see it. The world comes rushing back in, sharp and painfully bright. A kid laughs nearby. The sun is hot on my skin. And Clara, my Clara, the center of my universe for 20 years, has just rearranged all the stars. The words I have dreamed of, the words I had resigned myself to never hearing, are hanging in the air. My own tears begin to fall, hot and fast. They are tears of shock, of grief for the years we lost, and of a joy so profound it feels like it could split me in two. I reach across the small space separating our chairs, my hand shaking, and cup her cheek. Her skin is soft, damp with tears. She leans into my touch, her eyes fluttering shut, a shuddering sigh escaping her lips. It's a surrender. A homecoming. I thought you were straight, I whisper, the words sounding absurd now. Her eyes open, and a small, watery smile plays on her lips. I thought I was, too. She covers my hand with her own, her thumb stroking my knuckles. How's this for a plot twist? I laugh, a sound that is half sob. It's a big one. I search her face, trying to absorb the reality of this moment. You have no idea, I say, my voice thick with emotion. Claire, you have no idea. I don't need to say the words back to her. She can see it in my eyes. She can see the 20 years of silent adoration, the carefully banked fires of my heart now roaring to life. She sees the reverence. Leaning in, I close the small gap between us. Her lips are just as I always imagined they would be, soft and warm, and tasting faintly of salt and chlorine, and the end of a long, long wait. The kiss is hesitant at first, a question. Then, as my other hand comes up to tangle in the hair at the nape of her neck, it deepens. It's a kiss that holds 2 decades of near misses, of unspoken conversations, of quiet pining. It's desperate and tender and utterly, breathtakingly real. It's the feeling of coming home to a place you never knew you were allowed to live. When we finally break apart, we're both breathless. We rest our foreheads together, our tears mingling. The chaotic noise of the pool has faded away again, leaving us in our own silent, shimmering bubble. Everything is different. Everything is new. So, she says, her voice a happy, shaky whisper against my lips. What do we do now? I have an idea, I say, pulling back just enough to look at her. The freckles on her nose, the hazel of her eyes, the chip in her tooth, they are the same details, but I am seeing them for the first time through the lens of a shared truth. Tomorrow. You, me. We'll go to that little Italian place you love. And it won't be as friends. It will be a date. Our first date. Her smile is the brightest thing I have ever seen, more brilliant than the sun glinting off the water. Yeah, she says, her voice full of wonder. I'd like that. She settles back in her chair, but she doesn't let go of my hand. Her fingers are intertwined with mine, a simple, solid connection that feels more real than anything I have ever known. I look at our joined hands, then at her face, and the quiet, well-worn ache in my chest is gone. In its place is a feeling so light and expansive I think I might float away. For 20 years, I loved her in silence. Now, I get to love her out loud. Is there anything more terrifying, or more wonderful, than realizing the one thing you thought was impossible is waiting for you to finally be brave enough to claim it? If you've ever felt that impossible hope, like the story, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments below.